Hey lovelies, hexlings and our Cauldron crew. So I earlier this week did some zombies on stream, and in this video I am going to be doing a few more, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to do the special ones that have like the graves and stuff on the backs, but I'm not going to put the graves on the backs yet because I want to paint them separately, and then I'm going to do some alterations to what I've made. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Imogen, and feel free to check out my social media and stuff via Linktree at awitchesminis. I'll put all links and information in the description below. So what I've done, instead of nearly an hour and a half of waffling and watching glue dry, I thought I'd do a voiceover of my thoughts and ideas, narrating some of what happened while doing a mixture of very sped up, slightly sped up, and real-time content. So for this reason, due to speeding up the content, some photosensitive viewers may struggle with certain parts of this video. So I started with some of the ones that I'm calling the back carriers or specialist back carrier characters, and my Deadwalkers, which I'm also probably going to end up calling zombies, just because that's what's in my head. So my first Deadwalker zombie is one who is usually supposed to be carrying something on his back. He has a stake running through him, and I was going to do the alternative chest, but then my mind went to the staked versions for like carrying stuff. And I thought that that would be pretty cool, but now I'm kind of thinking I wish I'd done the other version. Maybe, I'm not quite sure. So I may alter these further, or I may just stick with what I've done. But I opted to give this guy the long hair, which I think was like a female head, but still. And I'm not too sure about the knife, but I ended up leaving it in. And I do later go in and texture him a little, and I'm now second thinking about a few different things, like how many characters I want to have carrying things on their backs. So I may alter him a little bit more before painting. So the second is a really cool character. They have this knife thing going on, and I didn't really like it, so I cut that off. And I wanted to give them a different hand, but I completely messed it up while cutting off the wrong bit. But in the end, it actually worked out really well, as they became this really awesome character. I did give them a broken neck, and because they had like a bald head, it was able to really easily sit on their shoulder. And I removed some of the vines, and then later on give her some different vines in different places. And to be honest, she becomes this absolute awesome character. Like, just wait till you see her in the end. Back to the first, their arm just wasn't happening. I did try to put a vine in there and eventually made it all stick, but I had real trouble just getting the arm to stick, or getting the vine to stick, or get the arm to stick with the vine. Just wasn't really happening, and I was really struggling, but we got there in the end. The third, he ended up being another with a stake running through him, and I wasn't too inspired off the bat, so I ended up just putting him down, walking away. But he becomes another cool character and also one of my favorites in the end. So moving on to the fourth. Now this one is a knight. I don't know if I like him or not. He's one of the ones that I built that is a back carrier and is meant to carry this, it's like a shield type scene on his back. And he does have a helm as well, which makes him more knight-like, as well as like his armor and his sword. But honestly, he doesn't really fit with the rest of this ugly party. He may become a separate figure, like that I take outside of my Deadwalker zombie army. I don't know. Do I alter him and keep him in? He's not a bad guy as far as zombies go. He just doesn't necessarily fit. And technically there is two of him as well, so I still have the one from the second sprue to build. So I'm on the fence. I went back into the second model. I'm still not keen on her hand situation. I tried to revisit the hand idea by making it shorter, but ultimately I did end up just cutting off her arm and giving her more of a vine arm instead. And as I said, wait till you see her in the end. And by the way, one day I will get better at not working off of camera, but until then, you'll just have to have my apologies. So I attached her vine arm via DIY Sprue Goo, and it took a minute to actually set up, but when it worked, it really worked, and I am so excited for this character. Back to our knight. I gave him a knight head, and ultimately I wish I hadn't. Maybe I'll decapitate him and give him a different head, or I said maybe I'll just remove him from the party entirely. I'm definitely going to be building more of these boxes and altering even more or kitbashing even more of them to make them more unique and my own. And that's before even going into painting them, which I'm hoping to paint them in a grimdark inspired style. So I expect them to be more dark, macabre, blood and guts than like box art. Moving on, I decided to visit the 6 that I did on the stream, and I will put a link to the stream replay below. But I had a really happy time with them, but I wanted to make them more unique. So the lady who has like the burned face, half hair, carrying her own arm, I removed the vine from her shoulder, as there's a second female in the box who has the same body, and I wanted to make them more unique. She is carrying her own arm, which is totally badass. I definitely wanted to make the focus more on their arm situation or on her face, and this vine was definitely taken away from her face and also from her arm. The second lady that I built on that stream, I decided to Sprue Goo her up to texture her skin a little, and I added a vine coming out of her back, which is the one that I cut off of one of the other models. She too is a dupe, so I felt that modding her body a bit more outside of just a different head and different arms would give her more of her own character. And then I got an idea for that character that I previously just put down. So firstly, I altered his arm by using one of the other arms from the Sprue set. And I did have the idea of altering 2 heads and like literally sanding them and then sticking them together to create more of a mutant zombie. So I just sanded them back and then stuck the 2 together, and then they became the head for my headless guy. As said, this is how he became one of my favorite characters and so cool. So I grabbed the burn victim lady who's carrying her own arm, and I wanted to make her arm where like it had come off more gammy. So I wanted it to be more of a rotten stump than just like the smooth area where you can attach an arm to. So I did this by just dabbing on some Sprue Goo, and I'm really quite happy with how it worked. It could be better, but I think for the size and the scale, I can definitely add more in once I paint it. Then I decided to texture our shovel lady, and I did get that wrong. If you watched the stream and I said about the pointed one being a spade, it's not. The pointy one is the shovel, the flat one's the spade. Anyway, I'm not too sure about it if I like this character or not, so I decided to just modify her a little bit to make her a bit unique, and I don't know, I'm not sure about this character. I also removed the vines from the hammer lady for the same reason as our armless lady, and then I shaped it with clippers and a knife and a sanding stick, and then added some Sprue Goo just to kind of sort of fill out the area. And it's now time to give our headless guy not 1 but 2 heads. So as I said before, I combined them together. I did cut off his neck so he had like a broader surface area in which I'd be able to adhere the heads to. And then I had a bit of trouble trying to get the heads to actually go on, but once they went on and they adhered and they were really like on there, I did fill in the gap with Sprue Goo, so those heads are not going anywhere. They are really on there now, and he's becoming, as I said, one of my favorites. And I think it's gonna inspire the future builds, because this point I was like, oh, I don't just have to like pick a head, pick a this, pick a that, and put them together. I can literally like really get in there and kitbash and really make these characters my own. So this is when things started becoming a lot more exciting. The farmer guy I love. I'm very tempted to give him a green stuff hat like my sister Sunburn character. And then I stole the opportunity to cut the remaining pieces from the sprue, so the torso, stakes, arms, heads, etc. And I snagged an empty little box and I made it into my Deadwalkers Zombies Bits box, which is Not an easy thing to say. Deadwalkers Zombies Bits Box. Deadwalkers Zombies Bits Box. Nope. So, anyway, I went in with more Sprue Goo just to ensure that everything was adhered and fixed and textured, and it was how I wanted it to be. And I dry fit the carrier ones. I dry fit the pieces on the back to try and decide who was going to be carrying what, if anything. And then I moved on to my biggest kitbash yet. So my person with the broken neck, they are a back carrier special character, but when I put something on their back, you can't see their broken neck anymore. And in fact, without anything on their back, they're bent over in such a way that you can't really see the awesome detail that I added of that bald head on the shoulder. So I decided that I needed to find some male legs, and therefore I reached for the other sprue so I could create a character who's standing upright. And to do this, I ended up actually cutting her in half so that I could merge her awesome top half with the brand new kitbash bottom half. So I did this by cutting them in half, sanding them with some sand sticks, using Sprue Goo to fix them together. And yes, they're definitely a trans or non-gender character. And I'm really excited for how this one is coming together. Honestly, I think they actually might be my favorite. It really has unlocked a new customization creativity level in me, and it's got me past that fear of messing up, because even if I mess up, I could just glue some bits together or glue some other bits together and make it into a different character concept. And this character has just, I'm really loving it. And speaking of honestly, I don't know where these hairs come from. Anyways, I'm really loving them so much, and they probably remind me of like the Silent Hill nurses. Oh man, now I really want to do some Silent Hill nurses. Are they a thing? Anyway, but I was like, what do I do with the cut off skirt? And we'd be down a character. So I cleaned up the skirt and I cut this section, and then I decided to grab one of the male torsos that's more like rib cage exposure than like obviously breasts. And I actually used one of the alternative ones from Sprue 1 in the little kitbash box. But there was this whole middle section, ribcage, hips area section that was kind of missing, and it looked very short, and she needed to have a stomach. So I started by drilling into her bottom half into the skirt a little way so that I could use a piece of jewelry wire just to kind of pin her together. And then I drilled all the way through the top half of the upper torso. And I just used super glue to like adhere that together. Now I was still very mindful about like the middle bit, so I cut a small section of sprue, rounded it off with my snips, and then drilled that. And of course, I did most of it off of camera. I just get carried away and I forget. Maybe I need to kind of create some kind of masked off area or something that makes me more mindful that I'm supposed to be working within this area on camera. But I was building this character and I was creating this character, and she actually became much more of a fortune teller style zombie, and I really love her. And of course, I Tamiya glued her together and then sculpted her with some Sprue Goo just to kind of sort of fill in that middle section. I might go back in and like sand around the top of the skirt so it's a lot less flat and a bit more rounded, like sort of hip span sort of area. But I'm not mad at how it's looking, even if I just leave it as it is. And then I thought I need a head, and there was one that has like sort of a head wrap, and I think it was one of the specialist heads for the back carrier characters. So I rooted out of my bits box and I found that, and I drilled that so it'd fit on the metal pin, and then I cut down a little bit of the pin and I glued the head on in place. And honestly, I'm so mad that I did the majority of this build off of camera. I'm going to have to rethink, as I said, like what I do, like to try and ensure I keep on camera, and be more mindful of this. But I am so excited for how this character is coming, and a lot of these characters, like just, I had so much fun doing these. And that's it. So having stolen just one pair of legs from the second sprue, I'm really excited to have more characters to build and to play with. And so I thought, let's have a look at what I've made so far. So in no order, we have our knight, and I'm not too sure if he's going to stay in our party or not. And then we have our double-headed mutant zombie, who is one of my favorites and is definitely going to inspire additional like altered head content in the future. We have our long-haired guy, who's just pretty cool as is on his own. Then there's the fortune teller zombie, which as said I might like smooth out like the surface, and I may also give her more like fortune tellery kind of look. And then we have our broken necked them character, who is like probably my favorite actually. The farmer who definitely needs a hat. I think we're definitely going to have to go and do that. Then there's Hammer Girl, who's looking so much better without those vines. The Armless lady, who is just badass carrying her own arm around like that. We've got this Scyth Guy, who I kind of wanted to give him a hat, but I don't want to have two characters with hats. And of course, our confused man, who has this awesome like scroll stapled to his back. And then finally we have Shovel Lady, who likes to lick shovels. I don't know. So yeah. So if you'd like to see more of my Deadwalkers zombies, ensure that you are subscribed and you have hit the bell. While you're at it, maybe give this video a like and a comment. Tell me which is your favorite character thus far, or which of those two characters I should add a hat to, if any. And then why not check out my socials via my link tree at awitchesminis. Join my Discord, support me on Ko-fi with a one-off Witches Brew tip donation, or check out my membership tier and become one of my Cauldron crew members. So for now, I think that'll do it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!